We have a loaded Week 7 slate this weekend. Super fired up for it. I mean, Red River Rivalry weekend, Alabama at Missouri, games such as those. I mean, this is why we love college football, right? And what better way to talk about these games and break these games down than with Trey Wallace from Outkick.com. We're super fired up to have him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at pigskin_frenzy. And check out the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Ladies and gentlemen, big guest, and we've been hyping this one up for probably about a week and a half now, so I'm pretty fired up about this. He's from Outkick.com. He is a national college sports reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Trey Wallace. Golf clap, ladies and gentlemen. Golf clap. Trey, how you doing,
Appreciate
man?
the introduction, man. I am that was very Bruce Buffer-esque. I enjoyed it. No, I'm doing great. We're rolling along with the college football season. It feels like it's been going on for 6 months. It's really just been going on for 6 weeks. And but the thing is, like, it never stops. Like the end of last season, we got into NIL, NCAA. I was covering basketball, baseball. Then you get to the summer and it's football. So what I'm getting at is, it just never ending, and there's always something going on, as you can tell with the news cycle this week.
I mean, literally, and it feels when you work in the field of college football media, it feels like, okay, a lot of things can happen within like that during the season, and it feels like it takes a toll on you, like 6 months, like you said. So, but
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look, you don't have a grip on it. I can get a text message at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and everything changes. Like I thought I was writing something, and you're following up and you get tipped off like with the Bill Belichick stuff this week. You know what I mean? Like anything, that's kind of what I've come to learn. Like the missus knows that, oh, you taking a day off? Well, not really. I got to take my computer just about everywhere we go. So, but hey, man, I love it. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it.
what is your life outside of football media? I know that you love this, and I know you love working for Outkick.com writing. Talk about what your life is outside of this. Who is Trey Wallace, the man?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's a little complicated because once we get rolling with the season, so like a little background, like I usually take for my own mental health, I take a break right after the season ends, the football season, that is, which now with the playoffs, it doesn't end until pretty much February. Um, so I'll take like a week or two, and I have to by then. Like my brain is mush. Any reporter will tell you that. Anybody that's been doing it for a long time. Um, and then during the summer, I usually take a week and a half, 2 weeks off. It's all built up time because I don't take breaks. Like, even during basketball season, baseball season, which I love covering college baseball. I love it just as much as I do college basketball. And so, once we get going, I tell everybody, family and everybody, hey, look, like, I don't know when I'm doing Thanksgiving yet. I might be on the road. Like, I think, what was it, 2 years? 2 years ago, I spent Thanksgiving in an Airbnb in Ann Arbor, Michigan, preparing for Michigan, Ohio State. I forgot where I was at last year. I can't believe I forget, whatever. And so, look, life outside is trying to enjoy different things. I like to get out. I live in East Tennessee, so the Smoky Mountains are a fun place to be at. And whether that's getting out for a nice walk, sure, that could be it. Turning off the phone for a little bit, it's hard to do in this industry. It takes a lot of will to turn off the phone. My editors will tell you that. I'll say, hey, I'm going to take this day off during the week, and I'm sitting there writing something at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Something might break, or just something I see. But man, I enjoy finding cool concerts to go to. We'll go have dinner at a new restaurant or something along those lines. Just it's difficult for the season because usually I'm traveling on the weekends. Last weekend I was in Tuscaloosa for Vanderbilt, Alabama. The previous weekend I was in Athens, Georgia for Georgia versus Alabama. I've been to Columbus already. I mean, it never really stops. There's probably 1 or 2 weekends during the season where I don't travel, and I like to say I'm parked. Um, and that's just because maybe there's not a matchup that is worthy enough for going, or maybe I just ran myself dry, and I'm like, you know what, I need a weekend to cover from the house,
Yeah.
which is always difficult because you're covering so many games at one time, and you're texting and talking with different sources while that stuff's going on. So I guess long answer, short is. We just try to find, and I just try to find that space where I know that I can at least put this down for a few hours. And even if we're going to dinner, or something like that, I'm probably usually carrying my computer, like it's in the car. Like I was driving back. This week from Alabama, and a story broke, or I got a text message that something was about to pop down. So, man, I had to pull over off the interstate, to pull over at like some local BP gas station right off the interstate. I had to connect to my phone for the hotspot, and I'm sitting there writing a story literally in the parking lot in
Oh,
my car. And so, what I mean by that is just you're always kind of on the go. And I think I've learned. I will say this: like I've learned over the last number of years, um, that I'll run myself dry if I don't take a break, if I don't try to take a day off during the week. And that's not afforded all the time because, usually, Joe, I'm traveling on Thursday nights, usually to get to a site, and then covering all that stuff. Sunday, I'm either driving home or flying home. So there's really no days off is
yeah.
the best way to put it. And I'm not complaining. I love it. But I have learned for the sanity of myself and being around others, gotta take some time to just debrief for a minute, however long that might be. So yeah, that's kind of life during the season. If you ask me outside of the season, I'm trying to get over to Nashville for a show, or Asheville, North Carolina, or going to visit some friends. We'll go visit friends in Ithaca. Like I spent some time in Ithaca, this past summer, where my best friend of 30 years, lives, and so it's just the small things, just trying to enjoy whatever life I can, and yeah, it makes it interesting.
That's literally me. Like literally, when you said texting sources, just keeping up with all the games, I'm doing that the whole time. I'm just going, okay, let me just just hopping on the X machine and just literally on the phone here, just going off because we're just covering so much and it consumes us. But we wouldn't want it any other way, right? This is why we love the sport of college football, right?
Yeah, and that's the different part too. And I know we'll talk about it, but there's always parts to your career.
Yeah,
At one point, you're covering the Southeastern Conference. The next part, it's everybody. I'm taking trips to LA to talk with folks at USC, or I'm Oregon, or I'm in Boulder, covering Dion and whatnot. So, I think it all changes at different points of the career, no matter what you're doing. And it's a blessing to have. It's a blessing to have, because I always say I've never, just being in this industry, never worked a day in my life. Now I've worked, like, don't get me wrong, like I've worked in the oil field, starting off in my career. I've lots of different jobs. I mean, hell, I worked the BP oil spill. My dad does environmental work. So like I was literally doing that at the same time of like covering the Senior Bowl, in Mobile. So like just different avenues of A, how we get here, and B, what we do with our time.
you talked about different parts of your career. Talk about getting into this space. What led you to think, you know what, I want to do this for a living?
So interesting story. I think I've maybe told this like only 1 or 2 times. Mike Griffith, he's a reporter for Dog Nation, covers Georgia, covers the SEC. Great guy. Um, he was covering the Senior Bowl when I was probably was probably 13 years old, down in Mobile, Alabama is where I'm from. Represent the state of Alabama. Got this hat over the weekend. I love it, by the way. And so I was down at the Senior Bowl Hotel, and I remember it was called the Watermark. Now it's a Renaissance. Now it's something else, whatever. And I was just getting autographs from players, man. Like I was literally hanging out in the lobby, getting autographs from different players at that time that they were in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. And Mike Griffith came up to me. Um, he asked my dad, he didn't ask me, but he, wanted to know who my favorite stars were that I was getting interviewed from and stuff like that. I found that fascinating. I was fascinated by this guy asking me questions about what I'm doing here. And at the same time, I was fascinated by him because the next day, I think it was the next day or the day after, there's me on the Mobile Press Register. I was like holding up an autograph, and Mike Griffith is putting my name in the paper, and it had to do with sports. So I was hooked from there. I was old enough to understand what they were doing, still young enough, obviously, to figure out how I wanted to do it, and that's literally it. Like I grew up, don't get me wrong, like I grew up going to football games. My whole family is spread out. Like I got a mom that's an LSU person. I got two brothers that are Auburn folks. My dad, it's out there. He's a Tennessee guy. Me, um, I was University of South Alabama when John Pelfrey was the head basketball coach, and the football program was trying to get off the ground. And a good family friend of ours, Pam Young, was the associate athletic director, and so like I worked for them. So what I'm getting at is like I've always had the football blood in me, and even the basketball. My dad would take me to women's Final Four games when they were in New Orleans. I still remember, when we went and did that, and um, so it's kind of always been in my blood. That's what I wanted to do. It's not like any of my family members like played football at these schools or journalism folks or anything like that. But yeah, it started off with something small like that, just being in the Mobile Press Register, to now all of a sudden seeing my own bylines. It's pretty crazy.
Outkick.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, obviously that's one of the big time sites now in terms of sports. In my honest opinion, I think so. I mean, every time I scroll across on social media, I see Outkick, Outkick, and then I'll see Trey Wallace, Outkick, and then I'm like, okay, so talk to me what it's like to work for Outkick and like how did that all came to be?
So so I have to go back a little bit. I was I got started in the radio industry, sports radio industry. And I was an intern for the current Tennessee Titans play-by-play announcer, Taylor Zarzer, along with his co-host Neil McCready. Neil McCready covers Ole Miss. I was in high school. I was an intern with them. I do the dirty work. I'd hang out on the remote sets and whatnot, and I'm soaking it in. I'm trying to learn, and to this day, Taylor and myself and Neil are all still really good friends. They still call me intern Trey, which is wild just to think about. Me and Taylor's ours are, we'll text after a Titans game now or whatever he's doing with golf and whatnot. But it got started from there, and I'd never stopped. Pretty much is the best way to put it. I'd find ways. I was working other jobs while I was trying to make my way into the industry, and it's tough. It's so tough because first off, there's so many people doing it. Nowadays, there's so many different outlets. Back in the day, it was either radio or print, pretty much. Online was getting going and stuff like that, but still not to where it's at right now. And, back in the day when like Shannon Terry was running Rivals or 247 or whatnot. So to kind of fast forward a little bit, I was a national reporter for a website called The Read Optional under Ollie Conley. I think folks have probably seen Ollie Conley a lot, probably this week
Yeah.
with Bill Belichick stuff. Um, and I was doing some stuff with them, and by this time I'd already worked at Cumulus, iHeart. I've worked did some work with some websites, stuff like that. So just grinding. And so I did that. I was mainly focused on SEC with the read optional. Good buddy of mine, Chris Lee, was also there. Chris Lee covers Vanderbilt now. And so I was rolling with them, and I got the opportunity, broke some stories with the read optional that were fun. The Florida Gators, the credit card scandal, Jim McElwain getting fired, Kevin Sumlin, so I found my edge there. And you have to do things in this business to get noticed. Let's just be honest. It is. I'm not saying you got to go out and break stories and all that, but I'm saying, to reach different levels. Best way to put it. And so I got a call one day from somebody that said, "Hey, look, like we looking for a radio host, but also covering Tennessee." And I was like, "Huh, okay, like this is interesting." I had a great job in what I was doing, but at the same time, I grew up going, like I told you, different games. Whether it was
Yeah.
an Auburn game, LSU game, Tennessee game, whatnot. I loved Knoxville. I did. I loved Knoxville. I still remember the hotels we'd stay at growing up. You know what I mean? I was never like a Tennessee fan or anything like that, but just to experience the college football aspect of it was really neat. And so I took a job covering Tennessee, hosting a radio show as well. And then I had another company come along and ask if I was interested in moving sites and whatnot, and I did. And so I continued that, and then all of a sudden. Um, uh, I was weighing some options from different companies from a national standpoint, and I had conversations with Fox and Clay Travis and Outkick, and they presented something to me that was uh, definitely what I wanted to continue doing. And so I told a few folks no, and decided to sign with Outkick. And um, hey, and let me preface this by saying, no matter what company you work at, there's going to be interesting things that come with it. Let's
Yeah.
just, be honest with each other here. But getting with Outkick, I wanted to continue building a college football vertical with them. And so, and kind of building off what Clay did and how he started it. And I give a lot of credit to Clay Travis. Here's the thing about Clay. Half the country loves him, half the country doesn't love him. But I will say this: most folks don't know him personally, and so and what he had done to get where he's at. And so I know he does a lot of the political stuff now. But yeah, working with Outkick, and getting started over there and signing with them. I wanted to continue, like I said, building it, making it even bigger than what it was from a college football standpoint. And um, from that point, it's been nonstop. Obviously, I'm sure you have questions about working at Outkick and where things are at, from a political standpoint, and also football, and how do I balance that. But I will say, it's been a blessing. It's been really good. I do my thing is the best way to put it. People will ask me all the time, what do you think about this political part of that? I don't give a shit. Excuse my language. Like I
No,
just I Joe, I don't. It's not that I don't care.
yeah.
Because let me say, I was a politics guy like in high school or whatnot. I was the guy that was reading the morning paper while sitting there before going into class in the pickup truck. But it's not, that ain't my lane, man. Like that's the best way
Yeah.
to put it. Like nobody's coming to me for politics. They can come to other people if you want to. You can go read Outkick. You can go read NBC. You can go read CNN. I don't care. You can read whatever you want to read about politics. But I never. That's by choice. I'm not dipping my toe in there and pissing off people.
Right.
Because I have my own opinions,
Mm,
and they might not. And here's the other thing too. Like they might not all align with Outkick, and they
yeah.
might not all align with other companies. But I think that what we've been able to do from a college football standpoint and basketball and baseball. I've covered 6 straight college World Series. I love it. Final fours, that's chip chips, you name it. And I tell you, I've really enjoyed how we've done it, or how I've done it at Outkick, and some of the editors and bosses that I have, and every now and then I'll interact with Clay. We'll talk about stories and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a real blessing.
Yeah. Shout out to Clay Travis. And the thing is, nothing has to be about politics on this show. It's all about the sport of football, right? I mean, this is what you love to do. You love talking about college football. Let's just let it stay in your own lane. And speaking of,
Well,
yeah,
you won't ever see me writing a political story.
right.
That's not it. Like if somebody, we're being very blunt with this podcast. If somebody wants to think that I think a certain way about a story just because of the company I work at,
Yeah.
I got news for you. Most of the people in the business might have different philosophies from where they're working at. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just life. But that it's just not my thing. And just as much as political folks know how to write those stories, that's their lane because they wouldn't know how to write what I do or what my colleagues in the business do.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it fascinating about everything. And some of the DMs I get sometimes from people, I'm like, oh man, like come on, like I'm not doing this stuff, so don't come to me for it. But I enjoy it, I do, and I think that what we've been able to do and continuing to grow the company has been fantastic over these last, man, goodness, this will be my fifth season covering college football and basketball, baseball with them. So yeah, it's been a ride.
Same. Trey Wallace, wonderful story. College football week 7 this week. We're pumped. I mean, I know
Oh,
I'm so pumped. It's a loaded slate. But before we get to our Pigskin Frenzy games for this week, because it's pretty good, it's a doozy. Let's talk about your ranking reactions for week 7. You probably heard the episode that I had on Tuesday. I
yep.
went on a tangent about Iowa State, Cincinnati, and a lot of people are thinking, dude, you were like calling the AP poll whack and everything. I know. I just got a touch aggravated, just a tad bit. Just really quickly, are there any moves you agree with or disagree with for this week?
I I look at where Miami's at right now. I look at where Georgia Tech is at right now. Um, somebody like Tennessee as well. Like Tennessee hung around number 15 for it felt like 4 weeks. And so they jumped up 3 spots. I was in agreement with dropping Florida State where they're at, and Texas and Penn State. Um, I think Texas and Penn State. The argument out there is why is Notre Dame ranked with their 2 losses, but Penn State and Texas aren't ranked anymore. And I would say go look at the losses
Yeah.
if you want a reason why. So I don't have any real gripes with it. My biggest thing is folks pay too much attention to the preseason polls that are
Yeah.
out there because you're trying to build up everything you think about a school based off pretty much what they added in the transfer portal, what they did last season. Like let's just be honest. Like that's how they and I get it. Don't get me wrong. I understand why we do it in this business. It's talking season for a reason. But at the same time, we get to like what we just passed week 6 of the season, going
Yeah.
into week 7, and it's all chaotic. And that's because college football has never been more wide open than it is right now, Joel.
Yeah. It's very wide open. Missouri at 14. I didn't really expect Missouri to be at 14. I didn't expect Missouri to be as good as they are this year. They're top 5 in offense and in defense. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Joe, who have they played? I'm just going to sit here and say it's still impressive what they have done, especially on the offensive side of the ball as well. And a lot of people weren't even expecting them to be that good on offense as well.
Well, I don't think a lot of people, I think people maybe thought that Bo Pribula would be one of the guys, you know what I mean? But they didn't really know. And I get that. Like, it's the conversation we're having with Arch Manning around the country right now. You know what I mean? Like, it really is. You don't really know. But I think with Missouri and what they've been able to do is they've handled business. Like that comes down to it. Like you're handling business. You're taking care of the opponent you're supposed to beat. And you're winning some games that you remember the South Carolina game. So what I'm getting at is I don't have a problem with where they're ranked. I think this is the prove it moment this weekend against a resurging Alabama squad that, they lost to Florida State in the first week of the season. And us, colleagues, everybody were like, all right, I guess we're writing off Alabama. Like,
Yeah.
is this what's going on here? And now Alabama, is
Yeah.
finding their identity and whatnot. It's like, that was like a pissed off moment for them. And now all of a sudden, they beat Georgia and Vanderbilt, and they're playing a lot better. And they had a couple cupcakes to eat. Wisconsin is a cupcake this year. I'm sorry, Badger fans that are watching. This are you'll get better in the future. But yeah, this is that moment for Missouri to really put a stamp on where they have been and where they think they're going to go for 2025.
One last question before we move on to the upset alerts.
Yeah,
Do you think, and this is, you may disagree with me on this. What about Ole Miss's spot? Do you think that they are a little bit overrated? And I'm not saying as a team, I'm saying like ranking wise. Are they a little bit overrated or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think also what they did against LSU's defense. LSU's offense might not be clicking right now, but the defense is good.
Yeah.
And you also have to factor this in. Lane Kiffin has made a decision. I understand the reports out there about Austin Simmons, and I've talked to some folks out there, and a college football player after week one is never 100%.
Yeah.
Just period. So the fact that he has Trinidad Chambliss starting right now over Austin, that's a tough decision to make. So also, they've won games with the backup quarterback who's now the starter. So if you think about it that way and you look at what the offense has done and how the defense is kind of rallied here, and obviously they're going to be not this week, they ain't going to be tested. Washington State won't be that much that. But next week going to Athens, I think we really, really find out. And obviously, because that's going on the road. You're playing LSU at home. So I don't have a problem with where they're at right now. I think that we're going to find out over the next, in the next 2 weeks, is this squad the squad that we think they could be? And I think Lane Kiffin also, like, he's not worried about these rankings right now. If you really think about it too, Joe, we haven't talked about Ole Miss a lot this season besides that LSU game.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if they got this high ranking, but they're still flying underneath the radar in a sense. So that's what makes it interesting to me about the old Rebels.
Yeah, and I think that, like you mentioned, next Saturday, week 8, when they go to Athens, I think that one's going to be like, all right, who is Ole Miss truly? Like, that's the game right there, I believe.
Yeah, that one's going to be the fun one. We'll see if Georgia. I know we'll talk about it, but Georgia, to take care of business. I don't want to say take care of business. It's not like the line is crazy, but if they can go beat Auburn, sets up a monumental showdown with Ole Miss next week in Athens. So we're going to see how this thing plays out. There's a bunch of games this weekend that are going to have a lot to do with. Well, first off, where I'm going to be at next weekend.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see what happens.
So who's on upset alert for week 7? We can talk about that one before we get to our preview and predictions for the 4 games. But who's on upset alert in week 7?
Texas A&M right now needs to watch itself. I'm not saying Florida is some dominant football team now because they beat Texas. Texas has got problems. Texas has problems on that offensive line. Texas has a problem because of the fact that their leading rusher is Arch Manning with 160 yards. Think about that. We're 6 weeks into the season, and their leading rusher is the quarterback. And this is not a quarterback that we would expect. It's not Marcel Reed. You know what I mean? So there's a lot that can happen from a win like they had last weekend against Texas. And I think that when you look at A&M, it took them a minute to kind of, and I'm not trying to downgrade Mississippi State in any way, but they really started to separate themselves kind of into the third quarter type of way. If there was any crazy thing to happen in college football, it would be Florida beating Texas and Texas A&M in back-to-back weeks. Like that, talk about wild. So if they bring the same offense as they had against Texas, then there's upset potential in College Station. The other one that I would throw out there, and I even hesitate to say this, but man, Indiana has got a fighting chance against Oregon this weekend. I think that I love Mendoza at quarterback. I really do. And I just this Kurt Cincinnati feels like a coach that he doesn't care. He doesn't. First off, he doesn't care about outside noise. I've had that conversation with him. But at the same time, look at Indiana's offense, man. It's a lot better than what Penn State had on
Yeah.
offense. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So it it just that could be one of those monumental wins for the Hoosiers. That, oh my goodness, last year we were talking about them. We're like, Indiana. I'm not talking. I'm talking about the fans. Indiana. Why are they in the college football playoff? Why are they in the conversation? You want to go make a statement for your program? Go out there and beat Dan Lanning in Oregon. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but
Right.
I do think that's one. I obviously folks are going to be paying attention to it, but I think that there's a chance you could see some chaos there. And then the last one I'll give you is if Auburn can figure out what the heck and how to convert, first off, how to convert a third down, but also maybe running the football a little bit. Um, I'm fascinated to see if Georgia can get enough going on offense. So that's a crazy rivalry, man. That Auburn Georgia game going up in that state, and all about that one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably another one to keep an eye on.
I like how you mentioned Indiana and Oregon because that's a pigskin game. We're going to talk about that one in a little bit.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
game. You
yeah.
may be kind of interested in this one, maybe. I don't know. What about Iowa State and Colorado? That could be an interesting one because Colorado did play TCU close up until at least the third, fourth quarter, and then TCU won by 14. But Iowa State, the way they look, they couldn't stop Cincinnati last week. Do you think that could be one to look out for too? Iowa State's a two and a
It's
half point favorite.
Yeah, but Iowa State, you always wonder this I was talking to a couple of coaches this week, and you don't want one game to bleed into the other. And this could be a situation where one game bleeds into the other because I did see some things out of Colorado's offense that made me go, oh, okay. Like I know what the final score was, but if you watched that game, you saw TCU separate, their, 4 minutes ago in the fourth quarter. Um, I look, Colorado has that ability. They got the players, man. They just haven't been able to put it together. They really haven't. And I also wonder how inspired Colorado is going to be. Maybe there's some extra juice with what's going on with Dion and whatnot. Kind of a play for your coach type of thing. So yeah, I think that one is one you're gonna have to pay attention to because if Iowa State suffers their second consecutive loss in the
Yeah.
Big 12, it shakes things up a little bit in that conference. You got to start looking around. Uh, I mean, obviously, the Big 12 team's going to get in, but I'm just to the CFP. But I'm just saying that race in the Big 12 gets a
Deep.
little interesting to me, right? So,
Deep.
yeah, that one wouldn't surprise me, Joel, if Colorado wins that game. Now, also at the same time, we both know this. Matt Campbell will have those guys, in my opinion, ready to bounce back and go play. But just telling you, when you lose one like the way that they did, and you get exposed a little bit opens up an opportunity for the next team to kind of take advantage of it as well.
I know we got to do the 4 games for the preview and predictions, but one more game I thought about was Arkansas and Tennessee. Do you think we can see a sequel to that one? Or no, from last year? Because last year, an upset happened in Fayetteville. Could we see a little bit of a sequel from last year in Knoxville?
I think Tennessee is going to be ready to enact some revenge on
Yeah,
Arkansas. I am fascinated because of the Bobby Petrino thing. Like
yeah,
Bobby Petrino, first game back as a head coach at Arkansas, roaming the sidelines for the Razorbacks. Like, he'll have a few tricks up his sleeve on offense, probably a few plays that maybe Tennessee's not expecting or haven't seen. Um, but at the same time, Tennessee's a good football squad.
yeah.
And I think that Joey Aguilar and what he has at receivers, Chris Brazil might be one of the top receivers in the country, even though he might not get the recognition for it at times. I just think Tennessee's too much. And I don't think this is going to be a look ahead type game. I think Tennessee, let me rephrase it. I know Tennessee's had this game circled on their calendar since this loss last season. So I would expect Tennessee to come out. And I think that's a 2 touchdown, 17-point type of win for the Vols on Saturday.
Absolutely. And look, anything can happen. Just ask
Yeah.
Penn State.
Yeah,
Woo!
no kidding.
Anyway,
Goodness gracious.
just ask
Speaking
Penn
of
State.
speaking of Tennessee, with old Nico going out there and running all around on Penn State, my goodness, that
Yeah.
loss could have major implications for James Franklin moving forward.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying. Just ask Penn State. Anyway, you're Pennsylvania fans. Oh, no. People in the state of Pennsylvania are going to hate me. Let's go to week
No, they're
7.
not. They might be thinking alike. They might be thinking like you.
Well, the title of Tuesday's episode was it's really not so happy in Happy Valley right now, which is, it's not. I mean, honestly.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Got Northwestern Saturday. So cross our fingers. Cross our
They
fingers.
should be fine. You would think so, but I guess we'll have to wait
Should
until
be.
Saturday to find out.
Should be. Week 7 preview predictions here on Pigskin Frenzy. Let's kick it off with Ohio State at Illinois. Very interesting game in Champaign. I believe Ohio State, the last time I checked, Trey, is a 14.5-point favorite. What's your analysis on this game, and who do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I so love Ohio State's defense. I really do. And what Matt Patricia's been able to do with that side of the football. I think that it's going to present a lot of problems for Altmaier at quarterback for Illinois. I respect how Brett Bielema has got his squad to rally since losing by 53 points to Indiana. How they're able to beat USC and then Purdue but even with this game at home. I think this one's going to, here's how I look at it. I think this one's going to be close for about 3 quarters. And when I say close, 7-10 point range. I just think Ohio State's defense is so overwhelming. They're going to cause problems for Luke Altmaier. I think at the same time, it's an opportunity for Illinois' defense to try to put Julian Sayin in some bad spots. Put some pressure on him, stack the box with 7, make him find Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate on the outside. I mean, that's hard enough for a defense, but I'm just saying, force him into to some potential mistakes. I think Ohio State. What'd you say the line was? I was curious if it moved or not.
As far as I know, the last time I checked, and look, please don't at me on this, ladies and gentlemen. You can
lines move all the time.
14.5 still from ESPN Bet, as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe that either goes up 1 point or down 1 point or even a half a point. But I think Ohio State ends up covering that game. I do think it's a close one, for three quarters, and then Ohio State kind of puts their foot down on it. But not a knock to what Brett Bielema and them are doing. I just think that Ohio State defense is suffocating.
Absolutely. The Ohio State keys for me are this. I mean, force turnovers. You got to get those turnovers. I think you got to win on third down as well. 7 for 10 on third down versus Minnesota was pretty solid. So you got to just win on third down. And then here's a good key, because you mentioned their defense. Make Illinois one-dimensional. Illinois has had trouble running the football. And I think if you make them one-dimensional, you got it. And that should be a smooth sailing to victory as well. Illinois keys for me, win on third down, 2 for 11 on third down versus Purdue. Not good. You have to try to convert on third down, get your running game going. And one more key before we move on, attack the middle of the field a little bit. I think Ohio State does have a little bit of trouble in midfield with the linebackers and the depth of the linebackers. I just think if you do that, you should be fine. Who do I have winning this ball game? I'm with Trey, guys. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think they win. I think it's just like he said. I really think that it's going to be close at first, and then Ohio State runs away with it in the fourth quarter. Give me Ohio State 35, Illinois 21. I think Ohio State gets it 14. I think that's enough. They cover and get the win on the road. Illinois is a good team. I just don't know if they're at that level just yet. Y'all can need me on that one later.
Yeah, they'll get you. Don't worry. But it's
fine.
You know how the internet works. I mean, come on now. Everybody's gonna have a problem with it. But I like I said, I agree with you. I think they cover that one. That's a good pick.
Absolutely. 3 more games left, and then we'll conclude and wrap up. But Alabama at Missouri. That's a good one. Alabama. I put my pen down, just being a judge here for a second. Alabama at Missouri. 3.5-point favorites on the road. Here is where I'm confused a little bit on this. Yes, Missouri is good. Who have they played? But at the same time, the history with Alabama on the road. That's where it gets me with Kalen DeBoer, at least. So who do you got in this one, and what's your analysis on it?
Yeah, I think what I've seen from Alabama with Jam Miller coming back and them being able to run the football, you can tell that they're trying their hardest with Ryan Grubb as OC to attack the middle of the field, and especially like they were going after Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was stacking seven. At times they were even bringing in a spy, but had a hard time bringing them down. And I think at the same time, too, Ty Simpson has shown his ability. His grasp of the offense has been fascinating to me. Watching him check down, check out last weekend against Vandy and against Georgia with what he was able to do in that first half and that third quarter. I know it was kind of slowed down in that fourth a little bit, but so I look at Alabama and I keep telling myself they've turned the corner.
Yeah.
Like this is a different team, a different identity. This is a pissed off football team, is what it was. And also, Kalen DeBoer, he ain't coaching scared anymore. That's how one person put it
Yeah.
to me this week. Like he ain't coaching scared. He's not worried about the backlash per se from Alabama fans. You're never going to outrun Nick Saban's shadow. So just pop a chair up, get an umbrella, and sit right under it. Like
Yeah.
there's all there is to it. Like you can't, being from that, I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, you got to be able to have your own identity. So I appreciate what Alabama's done. Just as a college football fan. Missouri at the same time, though. I look at Missouri's defense. I look at how one instance is, during the Carolina game, how they were able to get after the quarterback. To me, that's going to stand out the most. Vanderbilt had a problem this past weekend, and even Georgia at times, because they couldn't get after Ty Simpson. They didn't force him into bad problems. And I think that Missouri's defense, to me, has the ability at the linebacker spot, and especially along the defensive line, to cause some problems. They're going to have to get away from like Caden Proctor, okay, on that side, even though he might be out catching passes or running the football every now and then. But I look at Missouri, and I think that they can keep up offensively as well. This feels like a slobber knocker.
Yeah.
I said this going into that Georgia-Alabama game. It felt like a slobber knocker was about to take place. Just a gritty old football team, and you look at the final score, and that's pretty much how it played out. I look at this one, and I don't think it's going to be an offensive shootout. I think this is going to be something where Missouri's both Privilege makes a big play here or there, and does it with his legs as well, which causes a little bit of chaos with what they're doing on offense. They're going to try to establish the running game. I understand what Drinkwitz is going to do, as does everybody else if you pay attention to how they're scheming. So I think this one's going to be a gritty battle. I hate that it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Central Time, but that's a story for another day.
Yep.
But looking at it, Joel, Missouri has the tools to beat Alabama. They got the coaching, they got the offense, they got the defense. My biggest concern is that Alabama just feels like a man on a mission right now. And even though you kind of mentioned Kalen DeBoer and going on the road and whatnot, as being a problem, and I think we all remember, the one that stands out obviously is Florida State, but that one last season at Oklahoma
Yeah.
stands out to me as well. But again, I think this is a different team, and so I think Alabama goes on the road. I think they cover here. I think this is a fun football game. If you're an offensive guy, I think you probably might be a little bored this weekend. I think this is just going to be a gritty battle. Obviously, there are going to be some points scored, but I don't think it gets anywhere, in the 30 range for each team. To me, this feels like a 26-21 Alabama win, something along those lines. I know that 26 is kind of a weird number there, but it kind of feels like that. A few field goals added on to it, but Alabama goes on the road, covers against Missouri. Missouri puts up a good fight, and it would be the Tigers' only loss this season, so it's not like they're going to go anywhere in terms of playoff conversation.
Absolutely. That's a bold take too, especially if you're an offensive, minded person, like, I'm sorry, just cover your ears a little bit.
Yeah.
For Alabama's keys, you just got to figure out a way to slow down their offense as well, though. I mean, Mizzou, fourth in offense in college football, first in the SEC. A lot of people are going to say, okay, who do they play? That's still pretty good, especially for Coach Drinkwitz and the Mizzou Tigers. So establish the running game, obviously, for Alabama. I think the balance with Jan Miller, Kevin Riley starting to come into it his own just a tiny bit as well. I
Good
think
point.
if you establish that running game, you should be good. And then win the time of possession battle. Keep Mizzou's offense off the field. I think if you just ball control, tick, 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 tick away, kind of like you did against Vanderbilt in the second half of the game, you'll be all right. Mizzou's key, start off fast and explosive. Obviously, you got to establish the running game with Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy. I mean, they're amazing, right? I mean, third in rushing offense in college football, first in the SEC, and Bama's defense is 87th in rushing in college football, 87th in rushing defense in college football, and 13th in the conference. So that's a little bit of alarming trend if you're a Bama fan. So cover your ears or not. I mean, I think you need to hear it. And then win the line of scrimmage battle. Figure out a way to kind of move around up front. Who do I have winning this ball game? I think that it's going to be a close fight. I really do. I think it's going to be close, and Mizzou fans are going to want to cover their ears on this one. I think Bama's going to find a way to get it done. I think Alabama is going to kind of knock away that Kalen DeBoer road, debacle there, and I think Bama gets the win. I think it's going to be about 31-28. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think they cover 3.5 points or maybe even three field goal. But Bama gets it done. They go on the road because like you said, they're just on a mission, it seems. And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down right now.
You had me hanging out there for a minute, Joel. I was like, my man is about to take Missouri. Here it comes. He's going to nail the landing, and then bam. Alabama.
Because,
I was like, you got me.
I was hyping up Mizzou a little bit, and I've been hyping up Mizzou on X and all for a long time. I mean, they're good.
They deserve it.
And
they deserve it.
It's just Alabama's just operating differently right now, and I can't go against Alabama right now. Now, hey, go out there and prove me wrong, though. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and the thing is too is like, you look at how they beat Georgia and you look at how they beat Vanderbilt. Like, let's be real honest with each other here. Vanderbilt doesn't turn the ball over twice inside the Alabama 10-yard line. I'm not saying Vanderbilt wins the game, but what I am saying that score's different. The second half looks different. Vanderbilt's going to halftime most likely with maybe a 10-point lead. So there have been, like, Alabama is susceptible to get beat on the line of scrimmage. Like, so, and also, just my personal opinion, Bo Pribula has more to him than Diego Pavia has. That's not a shot at Diego. That's just reality. I think that he can hit his guys more down the field. So I'm in agreement with you. Bama better figure out what to do when it comes to the rushing defense, because that stat that you threw out there and the rankings, that is not what you expect out of Alabama.
Absolutely. And I know we got 2 more games left to go, but before we wrap up, I was just going to say that Alabama, and like you said, 87th in college football in rushing defense and 13th in the conference. That is an alarming trend, especially for Alabama. And you're just like, we're not used to this. And then you're going up against the number 1 rushing offense in the SEC. You got to figure out something. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm going to say.
Something got to give.
Something
we're
going to
find out.
The Red River Rivalry, or the Red River Shootout, or the Red River Shootout. Your good friend Josh Pate calls it the Red River Shootout. Still, hey, look. Shout out to him. Shout out to Josh Pate. What he's doing is amazing. He has chosen Como over the Dallas, but look, a lot of people aren't going to, hate on him traveling to Como and Columbia, Missouri instead of Dallas, especially in this one.
We have to do that. I mean, we have to do that. We got to make changes on the fly, man. Texas lost that game. I got to go to where the hot game is, and the hot game is either 2 places, Eugene or Columbia, Missouri. Well, Columbia, Missouri just a little bit closer, so that's why that's going to be
absolutely. You got to go there, right? Shout out to Josh Pate, by the way. Shout out to him, man.
I'll see my road wife this weekend. I know he's going to be watching this.
Absolutely. Oklahoma versus Texas. Oklahoma. So, Trey, if I told you that Texas was 3-2 and Oklahoma was 5-0 right now, what would you tell me? Back in July.
I'd probably ask you to go to the bathroom and fill this cup where I can test you. I think the fascinating part is the John Mateer part, and I understand that Brent Venables is playing games, when it comes to if he's going to be ready or not. But what he's been able to do for that offense, oh my gosh, it's night and day compared to what we saw last year. And it's not a knock against Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold was in a bad spot last year, and that team was riddled with injuries. But you look at Oklahoma right now, man, this feels like a team that has just risen from the dead and found a way. By the way, like,
Yeah.
great defense. Great defense. We were just trying to figure out what the offense is going to be like this year. And you look at their offense, man, and they are scoring some points. They are able to run the ball. Mateer's outside the pocket. He's thinking and diving. He's
Yeah.
like, it's fascinating to see this squad. And you look at Texas, and this is not Arch Manning's fault. I wrote about this on Wednesday because I was a little agitated with another company's, tweet post about Arch Manning and how he was a flop. And it's like,
Yeah.
how the hell can we judge
Right.
somebody 5 games into their college career if they're a flop or not? Like, stop. Texas. Here's the thing about Texas, Joe. Like, if you'd have told me that back in July, I would have been shocked in a sense of I thought they would get more out of their rushing attack. I thought that they would get more out of their defense. I saw a great defense in Columbus, Ohio, first game of the year. I was there. I saw them shut down Ohio State. And don't come at me, people on social media, because of the final score. That was a defensive juggernaut of a game
It
between
really
those two.
was.
And then you look at the situation like we kind of talked about previously with the Texas offense, man, they're just not clicking. The offensive line, one returning starter from last year, I don't think they really uh, took care of that room through the transfer portal. And so now you look at Texas, and I understand Wingo's out there. I get what Texas has, but the thing is, they haven't been able to put it together, and it's play calling too that kind of surprises me with this squad. And so, yeah, it's so weird. It's absolutely wild to think that Texas has already caught 2 L's. I get the first one. You know what I mean? I get that one. Last weekend, it's almost as if you went in not prepared for what Florida could be once the offense got rolling. Because that's all Florida's been waiting on is an offense to get rolling. That defense is good. But Texas was beat up on both lines of scrimmage. And I'm like, okay, like this is not what we expect. This is not, and you can't fault the folks, like us that are out here thinking Texas is going to be a title contender. Look what they had. But at the same time, Arch is having some problems right now. Footwork, I think you would agree. I think seeing the field well enough, like I don't take much away from Sam Houston State, besides people on social media that wanted to get pissed off at Arch Manning for flexing on somebody in the end zone. My guy is a 21-year-old college student that was having a moment. Who
Yeah.
cares if it goes like this to a player?
Let him have
Who
it.
cares?
Let him have it.
Just let him have it. So yeah, it is so weird to see the win loss records for both squads. It really is, and that's what makes this weekend so fascinating to me, so intriguing. Is because even if John Mateer does play, this is going to get a little dicey. Because if Texas comes off the edge one time and hits him hard, and maybe even hits that hand, it could not look well for Oklahoma the rest of the season. That's why I don't think John Mateer plays that much this weekend. I think this is a little bit of mind game that are going on with
Yeah.
Venables, and I think when the availability reports come out, um, you know, I don't know about you, but I made this reference today on something else, and I said it's almost like the NASCAR playoff waiver.
Yeah.
Okay, if Oklahoma loses this game this weekend, and they don't do it with John, if they lose without John Mateer playing, the CFP committee is going to look at that down the road. If they only catch like one more L the rest of the way, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, that was the game John Mateer wasn't playing. Here's your waiver into the playoff. It's
Yeah.
kind of like when a NASCAR driver, like the wife has a baby or he gets hurt or something, has to sit out a week or two. I'm sorry to bring up NASCAR. I guess that,
No. No.
watching my cousin every freaking weekend, Bubba, race around the track, is just something that, gets into my head. But I do think this sets up for a potential, chaotic game in Dallas that you never really know what happens when you get these two teams on the field at the Cotton Bowl.
Right. Who do you got?
That's the crazy part is because of the Mateer stuff.
Yeah.
I, 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 I I think Texas wins this football game on Saturday, and I think they beat Oklahoma, even if Oklahoma has John Mateer. It would be. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a coach, anything like that. But it's been what, 15 days, 14 days since he had surgery on his hand.
I think, or 17
Just
days, 17, I
it's
believe.
17
Yeah.
days. I think it would be up to. Yeah, I was trying to remember right up to that point. So it would be a risk for Oklahoma the rest of the season if they were to try him out there and play. Um, I think Michael Hawkins can get stuff done for Oklahoma. I do. Just feels like Texas has their back against the wall and they're going to fight their way out of it. And now, when I say that, I'm not talking about they're going to fight their way to the playoffs or anything like that. But I think they fight their way through a win on Saturday. Something gets put together. The running game starts rolling, per se. Arch Manning has a better game. It's not like he had a horrible game against Florida. But if they can figure out a way to protect him, that's where it gets interesting. I think Texas beats Oklahoma with John Mateer being a limited, if not even playing quarterback for the Sooners.
That's good. Now
I know.
that's good.
Bring me
But
down to reality,
no, no, no,
please.
no, 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 no. I'm not. No, no, no. I'm. So here's the deal. You know what? I'll just tell you after I do the keys to the game. So for my keys
Okay,
for here,
do that. Yeah.
So win the line of scrimmage battle if you're OU. I think that's the most important thing. Establish the running game as well with Blaylock, with Ott. I also think you got to pressure Arch Manning. I know it's like squirrely in the pocket a little bit. They are tied with Tennessee for first in sacks. I mean, that's the stat that's getting to me a little bit. They're tied first with Tennessee in sacks. That's getting to me now. Texas's keys win on third down. 3-11 is not good. You have to do a little bit better, especially against Oklahoma. Minimize the penalties. 10 penalties for 70 yards, yes, but it wasn't like it could still add up eventually and can cost you a game. And then protect the football. I mean, 2 turnovers for Florida. I don't know if you should do that against this OU defense. Who do I have winning this ball game? I think Texas is going to play a lot better. I think it's going to be a fight.
Okay.
I think OU ends up winning the game and getting it done, though. I think Oklahoma's defense does just enough to kind of scare a little bit from Arch Manning a little bit, trying to, cause some chaos with him, get enough sacks in there, maybe force a turnover or two, and Oklahoma's defense is the reason why they beat Texas this weekend. Now, Texas has to have it more. I will say this, and this is, all honesty, before we move on to our last game and wrap up this episode, I was having trouble with this game. This was the only game where I was just going back and forth before we hit record because I just did not know who to pick. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I think they get the job done. 1.5 point favorite. The line will change in an hour, I know, but I mean, who knows? This game is just flip-flopping on the spread. So,
Do you think John Mateer, do you think he should play? Like, you're not a doctor, but do you think he should go out there and risk it for this one game? What,
I mean, if you care about the rivalry, I guess, yeah. But if you're talking about long term, let's go to the college football playoff, probably not. Honestly, man, I think Hawkins can manage, and I think Oklahoma's defense this year is way better than last year's Oklahoma defense. And I think the way Arch is playing right now, not bad. He didn't play bad against Florida, but I think Oklahoma's defense is much better. And I think OU's defense can get to Arch Manning a little bit and cause some chaos. But Texas
Oklahoma's front seven is right. Oklahoma's front seven, if they follow the Florida game plan, they could wreak havoc on that offensive line. So
absolutely. Last but not
be a
least,
tough one.
Indiana at Oregon in Eugene. Very interesting Big Ten game. Both 5-0. I think the spread, Trey, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably going to be moving the next hour, is Oregon 7.5. It was like a 9.5 for Oregon. It moved down like 2 points. Who do you have in this one? What's your analysis and just who you got?
I've gone over this one all week long because I'm so fascinated by this one. It's an early kick out there on the West Coast. That A lot of Big Ten coaches have been complaining about travel and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to hear Kurt Cignetti complaining about travel. Just whatever. Um, I This one to me gets so fascinating because of what I've seen from Oregon's defense, and at the same time, what I've seen from Mendoza at quarterback for Indiana, and his run towards potentially making it to the Heisman ceremony in December. Um, it just feels like something's got to give here. Like Dan Lanning's going to have some things cooked up on the defensive side to get after Indiana. Can they run the football on Oregon? I saw a Penn State offense with Drew Aller that was pretty much shook for 3.5 quarters until they went on that little run there towards the end to force overtime. And credit to them for forcing overtime, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean by that. They were shook. They they
Yeah.
they, they couldn't score. They couldn't move the football. Indiana can move the football. Indiana's got weapons. Indiana has a quarterback, in my opinion, that is more composed than Drew Aller. At the same time, I love me some Dante Moore. I love what Dante Moore's been able to do so far for Oregon this year. I think that they're able to balance the offense with a solid rushing attack, and at the same time, they just had the ability to find their play. Dante Moore, he can read the field. The way he was, and that's a tough Penn State defense, by the way.
Yeah.
They're not paying Jim Knowles $3 million for nothing. That's a tough thing. What I'm getting at here is that this feels like to me it could turn into a shootout.
Yeah.
And the quarterback battle here between these two is so fascinating to me. More over Mendoza. That's why it's been so hard to come up with. Do I think Oregon covers? Do I think Indiana covers? And it's a close one. I think Indiana covers the spread here. I think Indiana loses, but Indiana covers the spread. This is going to be a tight, fun ball game. Kirk Cignetti will have his team ready to go. And I say all that to say this: a couple things bounce Indiana's way, a turnover here and there. This game flips. So I'm going with the Ducks. The Ducks will continue flying just because Dan Lanning is an absolute madman and he has a way to get this team rallied up and he can figure out ways to, especially when things get a little hairy like we saw in Happy Valley. So I'm going with the Ducks to win, but Indiana will cover this one. Congratulations, CBS, for getting one of the best games, in my opinion, of the year. You don't get those often on CBS. It
So
usually
true.
goes to Fox. So have at it. That's my pick. Indiana covers, but they lose.
And that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I think it's a good pick.
I know you're about to hammer me though, and I get it. That's fine. I'm ready.
Trey Wallace, ladies and gentlemen. Trey Wallace. No, I'm not going to hammer you. Look, the college football prodigy nickname is just a nickname. I don't know why people say that. I was given that nickname by a podcast. So shout out to the Red Zone Blitz. That was all of them on that one. I just love the game, man. If you're Indiana, you got to establish the running game. I mean, fifth in rushing offense in college football, first in the Big Ten. Oregon's got to do something about that. You got to pressure Dante Moore if you're Indiana as well. I mean, third in sacks in the Big Ten with 16. That's a lot. I mean, so far, who they played, I understand, but that's still a lot. And then Fernando Mendoza just has to have another day, I believe. I think if he just plays lights out, Oregon won't win this game. But in Oregon's defense, you got to protect Dante Moore. I think if you protect Dante Moore, you should be fine. I think if you slow down their running game, you should be also just fine as well. I think here's an interesting one. I think just create explosive plays early on. If you create those explosive plays, you should be fine, and I think Oregon can do that. Who do I got winning? I think Oregon wins the game outright. I think they cover. And a lot of people are going to say this. I don't think they just cover. My score is probably going to be 35-21 Oregon. I think Oregon beats Indiana, and a lot of people are saying, are you insane? You just went on a few weeks ago to talk about Fernando Mendoza. I did, and Fernando Mendoza had a heck of a game against Illinois. Yep. I just think Oregon's a better football team, and I think they're going to show it, and they're going to run away with the game probably mid-fourth quarter. 35-21, give me the Ducks, and they cover 14 points.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I don't. Here's the thing. Like, I could see it bouncing that way where they do cover. I just think Indiana they have a couple different elements on defense. They could show them a few things.
Yeah.
And look, Dan Lanning is the defensive genius. I get that part. Um, but also can't downplay Mendoza. So
Yeah, that's true.
I feel you on your pick. I like that pick, to be honest with you. I do.
And that just about does it. I mean, Trey Wallace, is there any more final thoughts before we head into week 7 and wrap up?
No, it's going to be a fun weekend. By the way, this has been fantastic. I hope everybody out there continues following Joel. This is, man, this has been a lot of fun. And especially the breakdowns have been great. I appreciate you having me. It's been,
Absolutely.
this is the highlight of the week. And the weekend, look, we have learned something over these last 6 weeks. Don't take any weekend for granted, and don't take any matchup that you might think might be over by halftime going into the game. Don't undersell it. Things could get a little mad. So that's what I would sum up what's coming ahead is just enjoy it. Enjoy the college football season. Look for the upsets. They could happen. They might not happen. Well, we got ourselves a great lineup of football coming up, and I'm just so appreciative. And again, thanks for having me so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I had fun with Trey Wallace from Outkick.com. Ladies and gentlemen, that just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit and listen and watch some college football coverage presented by us. If you watch it on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. Just follow, share around with others as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow, like pages there, as well as our website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Follow Trey Wallace on Instagram and X, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him. Read his stuff on Outkick.com. He does an amazing job. Thank you again for joining us. It was a pleasure and a huge honor for you joining us as our Week 7 guest picker. Guys, we have a great weekend of college football. Also, we could not do this show without our Lord and Savior Jesus. Without him, we would not be in college football media. So we praise him and give him all the glory for just allowing us to do Pigskin Frenzy. And we thank you guys for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Tuesday for Week 7 recaps. Ladies and gentlemen, for everybody out there, please and always stay the course.